Hey guys, how's it going? Remington here, and today I'm with you guys for a tutorial on how to create voxels out of any 3D model in Blender and how to make a really awesome scene with it. So here we see the scene I made. It's a Battle of Hoth representation. It's got nice little, it looks almost like Minecraft a bit, however it is not. Basically it's just a bunch of cubes. It does have a very Minecraftish style, but you can see up here there are some littler cubes. I don't know why Windows 10 doesn't, oh here. Wow, that's really stupid. I can't just like scroll in. You can see up here on the downed AT-AT, there are some little, I don't know what to call them, fire particles, I guess. You can do all sorts of things with voxels. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's create just a simple little idea here. So I'm going to delete everything in this scene, just like that. And I'm actually going to just find a random 3D model. So I'm going to go to tf3dm.com. And for those of you that don't know, it's thefree3dmodel.com, and it's really amazing because you get a bunch of 3D models for free, and you don't really have to worry about it. So let's see, what would look cool? We could do animals. Animals would look cool. Let's do animals. We might even be able to rig one and then animate it. That would be pretty cool. So when you're looking for a model, or if you're creating one, you want to try and find something relatively simple. Ooh, we can do Hello I'm Dinosaur Voxel Edition. Ooh, let's do it. Alright, so Vastosaurus Rex. I have no idea what that is. I've never even heard of that. Hang on. We're going to do a little education here. Vastosaurus Rex. V-Rex. King Kong versus V-Rex, T-Rex versus V-Rex, V-Rex versus Indominus Rex. Huh. I have no idea what Vastosaurus. Anyway, it downloaded, it took 20 seconds. Oh, it looks like it's rigged already too. That's what it says at least. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy the entire folder to my desktop. And we'll go into Blender. And we'll go to File, Import. It was an OBJ file that we downloaded from my desktop, Vastosaurus Rex, OBJ, Import OBJ. And it doesn't look like it's rigged, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to change the shading. Oh, it looks like it's a couple separate models. If you're things like, you can see here, mine's a couple of different models. So I've got a head, and I've got like looks like teeth right there, teeth and tongue and body. If it is multiple models, be sure to press A to deselect everything, then press A again to select it all. And then over in this transform menu, this tools menu, if you don't have it, press T. Go ahead and click join, and it becomes one full model. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and set the shading to flat, and you can see we don't have that many polygons, which is good. A low poly model is a good model for this. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my modifiers tab. I'm going to add a, remesh modifier. We're going to change this from sharp to blocks, and then we want to change the octave depth. I'm going to change mine to about 8, and you can see, voila, we have a voxel dinosaur. Just like that, and it's really not that hard. And if we check, you can choose here if you want to remove the disconnected pieces so things don't seem to like float away. You can do that. You can set it to have smooth shading. I think it looks a little bit awkward personally, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to keep the disconnected pieces, and you can change the scale. So you can see as I lower the scale, it becomes more and more pixelated. If I raise the scale, the highest I can go is 9.9. Now we got this really awesome thing, and you can also see the octave depth. If we change it to 1, it's just a cube. 2, it's a rectangle. 3, it's got some shape. 4, 5, 6, all the way up. 7, it starts to look like, when we're back at 5, it doesn't even really look like a dinosaur, unless you think that looks like a dinosaur. This is really helpful for pixel games though, because I mean, like, if you look at this from the side, like if you create some sort of game using this would look really sick. But for my purpose, I'm trying to get something that's detailed. And once you get up to like 9, you get really detailed. And if you go any higher than 9, Blender slowly but surely freezes. And yeah, you can already see it's starting to not even look like voxels anymore unless you get really close to it, which you shouldn't even bother with. So I'm going to set mine to 8 because 8 has a good balance between voxels and details. So there you can see it has a few fingers. I'm actually gonna probably remove those floating pieces on second thought. Or we can also change the threshold. So you can see it doesn't look like it has much difference there. So I'm just gonna remove disconnected pieces and leave it at 1. Alright, so we have our super awesome dinosaur here, and now we're going to create a cool scene with it. So I'm going to press Shift A, add a mesh. Oops. We'll Shift S, cursor to center first, just to make sure our cursor's in the center. Then we'll do Shift A, add a plane, and we'll size it up a bit. Just like that. And then we'll go ahead and, what should we do? Let's add some trees. So I'm going to go ahead and look up tree, see if we can find any decent tree models. Let's open up some of these. That one looks alright. It looks kind of small though. I'm looking for this one. Looks good, but it looks like it has lots of polygons. This one looks like it's got lots of polygons too. You know what? We're gonna do this the cool way. We're gonna create our own trees, not even download them. So I'm gonna go into layer 2, and if you don't know how to change layers, it's just this little thing down here: layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, so on and so forth. I'm gonna go into layer 2, press Shift A, and add a cylinder. I'm gonna scale the cylinder along the Z-axis, move it up just a tad bit, just like that. I'm going to add a UV sphere, move it up to the top, and scale it up. And you're like, what? That barely even looks like a tree. And I know, it barely even looks like a tree. I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this a few times, making it get smaller every time. I might add a few more, just a couple of little blobs on the side. Just like that. Like that. Like that. I'm going to make sure I add some scaling difference in between them. That way. If you're going to make a blob coming out, be sure it kind of comes out the bottom almost, or off the side, straight off the side. Otherwise, it's going to look a little bit awkward. It might not have as good of a result as you might have hoped for. And you'll notice, like, it just looks like crap right now. You'll see once we kind of take away from it, it'll get better. If you take away from it, it somehow gets better. Which doesn't quite make sense, but you'll see when it happens. So we'll just add a couple things. Maybe move that down there. Just like that. Alright, cool. So we have our little doodad here. Doodad thingamabob. And now I'm just going to assign some basic materials. I'll switch into cycles because I'm going to be doing this in cycles, but that's just for my material creating. So I'm just going to create a simple diffuse material, make it brown for the base, and then for the leaves, I'll just leave it as diffuse for now. We'll make like a yellowish, darkish green, so kind of like there. So now if we switch into rendered mode, and we go into world and just for now boost the ambient occlusion so we can see the colors, that's kind of what it looks like right now. And it looks like something out of a cartoon. So I'm going to select everything. You can either control click like that, or you can press A twice. I'm actually going to name my materials first. This is leaf, and this one will be bark. Alright, select everything, go into the modifier. Actually, we'll join them first. So now they're all one mesh, and when you do this, they should still have their individual little things there. So now I'm going to add a remesh modifier, blocks, and then we'll change the octary depth to 8. Maybe it's too much. We'll go 1. No, definitely not 1. 5, 6, maybe. I like 5. And it looks like we lost our stump. So I'm going to have to create a new stump. I don't know why that happened. That shouldn't have happened. It looks like the entire thing turned that color. So we'll just go ahead and get rid of our bark material from here and just leave this as leaf. And you can see we have a wonderful tree now. Just like that. And you can see how those bumps really kind of allowed it to come out like that. So I'm in material view right now. I'm going to add in a cylinder now. We'll make it somewhat thick, somewhat thin. Feed it up through the middle. Now it looks like we do have some hollow points, so I'm going to actually make this the full height of the tree. Or at least most of the height of the tree. That way we can see it. And then I'm going to hide this over here. Actually, we'll rename this layer tree, just so we'll do leaves. And then we'll name this cylinder stump, I guess. So I'm going to hide the leaves, and I'm going to select this, go into edit mode, select this top face, shrink it down a little bit so it kind of shrinks as it goes up. And I'm going to add a loop cut by pressing Control R, moving it down a little bit and scaling it up. That way the trunk kind of retains its size, and then I just said trump, didn't I? The trunk kind of retains its size, and then it gets smaller as it goes. So now we have our wonderful tree, and then I'm also going to press Alt-D and then shrink it down just so we have a bit more variance in our leaves, maybe rotate it a little bit so it kind of looks, you know, very tree-y, less see-through-y, but it's still see-through in some spots. So I'm going to actually merge the two leaf layers, join them, and then we'll actually merge the two. Actually, we have to change the stump first. We'll change the stump into voxel, so we'll add a modifier, and we will add a remesh modifier, blocks, and then octary depth. We'll keep this nice and low, maybe 3. 3 looks good, I think. We'll keep it at 3, and then we'll apply it just for the heck of it. You know, oh, oops. All right, looks like with the leaves I'm going to apply that, and with this I'm going to apply it, because since we're joining the models, you have to apply it first, otherwise it's not going to work very well. So I'm going to move these to layer 1 with our wonderful T-Rex. Now it looks like our T-Rex is a little bit smaller, and we want the T-Rex to be a little bit smaller than the tree. So I'm going to add a few trees here, change the size a little bit. Now it's probably a little bit too big. We'll add in some more plants in a second here. Make sure to rotate these across the Z-axis when you create them, that way they have some sort of difference in them. You can also make them overlap because the voxels won't like be that prevalent. They'll just kind of blend in with each other unless it's rotated at an awkward angle, in which case it's pretty easy to fix. And when it comes to the background, like the trees that you don't see immediately, you can kind of just shrink them down and just keep them all the same. Because if we're going to have a camera angle that's like right here, maybe, looking at this evil dinosaur coming out, you won't really notice the trees in the background all that much. So I'm actually going to grab a cluster of these trees here, holding Shift to select them, Alt-D to duplicate. By the way, I should have specified to move them between layers, you press M. I'm sorry if I didn't say that. I'll add that in a little extra thing later while I'm editing this. You can see I've got them like overlapping and all that crap, because it doesn't really matter because they are in the background after all, and who really pays that much attention to stuff in the background? I guess that's kind of bad tutoring or bad advice, because it is important to pay attention to the background, but since this is just for a tutorial, I'm just going to quickly move some stuff around. You can understand why I'm doing that. So now we have a nice little forest here, and we have this mean little dinosaur. I'm actually gonna get rid of the modifier for a second just so we can kind of see the basic model. So we have this beautiful forest, and I think that we need some foliage underneath the trees. So I'm going to do this another way. This is another way of doing voxels. So I'm going to go back into layer 2. I'm going to press Shift S, send the cursor to the center, and I'm going to add a cube. And then I'm going to turn on this little magnet button, and I'm going to duplicate the cube a bunch until it gets to the shape I want it to be. Now I'm going to try and create some sort of fern with this. So I'm not sure how well this is going to go. Hopefully it goes relatively well. I might just create some sort of little plant or something too. No, let's do this. We'll create grass first. We'll create some sort of grass. So we'll kind of work its way up, and then it'll kind of lean off to the side, just like that. Simple grass. Select them all, join them, add a material to them. We'll make it a nice light yellowish green, just like that. Just keep it as diffuse for now. Well, I'm going to, at least. If you'd like to develop the materials a bit more, you can. I'm going to boost the green a bit more, just a tad bit. All right. I'm going to shrink it down. I'm going to, since we did create this with cubes, I'm going to select Object, Transform. Oops. Object, transform, origin to geometry. And then I'm going to Shift S, cursor to center, then Shift S, selection cursor to center it. And then we're going to move it to layer 1. Now we're going to do something a little bit different with this. We're not going to place this along the trees everywhere and stuff. I'm going to actually move this below the plane. And then I'm going to rename this from cube 3. We're going to rename this to grass. Now you can see we have a bunch of trees here. I might just select them all and then parent them, but I'll do that later. So we have a bunch of trees and stuff, and then we have VREX body. Anyway, I'm going to select this ground plane right here. I'm actually going to name this ground. I'm going to create a material for it. I'm going to make it just a kind of like grass. We'll duplicate grass. We'll call this ground. We're going to make it a bit darker. Actually, I might just make it brown like dirt. There we go, something like that. And then I'm going to come into the particle systems menu. I might have to submit this as an entry too. Alright, so it says particle settings. We don't really need to worry about that. Lifetime, we're going to change up to 500 just for the heck of it. Start 1, end 1. And then we're going to come to physics, set it to no, so it has no physics. And then we are going to change it. You can change these settings if you'd like. I'm going to set it to random because random always seems to work well. And then for the render, we're going to set it to be an object, and we're going to change it to be grass. Now you can see we've got all these little sideways grass things. So to fix this, we need to check rotation, and then we need to select object Y, and then voila, we kind of have it fixed. We can change other things like object X. I'm going to keep it object Y. I'm actually going to change the origin of this object. I'm going to change it to the base of it. So if you click the 3D cursor kind of in the center, maybe 1 and then 5, switch into orthographic mode, and 3 about here. Looks like it doesn't really want to go straight for the middle. It's fine if it's not in the middle. It just needs to be somewhere near the bottom. I'm going to select object, and then, or well, first make sure you have your grass selected, and then go to object, transform, origin to 3D cursor, and then you'll see all these little grass pellets are now sticking up like they should, and they don't really go that far below the ground plane. So I'm going to go back into this layer. I'm going to boost these particles up, and I'm going to change their size. We're going to set their size to 0.1. You can see I am getting a little bit of a lag here from looking at all these guys. So I'm going to set the random size to 0.1 about so they have a bit of a variation. Now I'm going to add another particle system. And this is going to be the longer grass. So this is kind of the short grass here. We'll rename the particle system. This will be short grass. This will be medium grass. Actually, here we'll do this. Can I duplicate? I don't know if I can duplicate. It doesn't look like I can duplicate it. So we'll just, oh here, we can do this. We'll do short grass 2. And then we'll name this long grass. Wait, med grass. All right, cool. So we have medium grass. You can see we're getting a bit of lag, so I'm going to disable the view on our short grass up there. So now we only see the medium grass. And I'm going to change the size to 3. Oops, maybe not 3, 1. 1 is too big. 0.5. 0.2. There we go. That looks accurate. I'm going to drop the number a bit, so it's at 10,000, so I'm going to drop this down to 8,000 about. Just like that. Let's see here. All right. So now if we show them both, you can see we have some variation. I'm actually going to change the size from 0.2 down to maybe 0.15. There you go, that seems a little more reasonable. So now I have some really good variation in grass, and I'm going to create a completely, I'm going to actually hide both of these, just so we don't have to look at them. Make sure you don't check the render box, just the view box. I'm going to add another thing of grass here. So I'm going to Shift S, cursor to center, and then Shift A, mesh cube, and make sure our magnet's on, Alt D, Alt D, Alt D, Alt D, Alt D, Alt D. The reason I'm making this so tall is because this is going to be our long grass. markers a little bit too much. All right, so we'll select all these, A, then select join, and then we'll do object transform, origin to 3D cursor, down at the bottom there, and we'll take the grass material and we'll duplicate it and we'll make it a bit more yellow. Not that much yellow, maybe a little bit more, make it a bit darker. Because whenever I think of long grass, it's a bit longer, so we'll call this long grass. And we'll move this to layer 1 by pressing M and then 1. Move it below the ground layer, and you can already see the size difference between the two here in height. And we'll add another particle system. This will be, we'll take this and duplicate it, and this will be long grass. And then we'll set the count to maybe 5,000. Change the model from grass. Oop, I forgot we didn't rename this one, so we'll rename this cube up at the top here. We'll rename it to long grass. Take this main group here and we'll select long grass, just like that. You can see we got this nice long grass. I'm going to set the size to 0.2, disable rotation, just like that. And then I don't want the grass to be out in this field. I only want it to really be in the woods. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this right here. I'm going to make sure I have the plane selected, press tab to go into edit mode. I'm going to change this back to solid view. Now it looks like our plane is just kind of this regular plane. So I'm going to actually press Control R to loop cut, and I'm going to make a couple loop cuts so that I can kind of place the grass, so we can make a selection that only allows the grass to be in the forest. So you can see here I'm going to select this kind of L-shaped area. I'm going to leave this L-shaped area, this awkward L I guess, to be just the short grass. So that's kind of how you want to divide it. If you have a forest or something, we'll go ahead and do that. And so the things I have selected right now are the things that are going to have long grass growing on them. So now if I go into the vertex group tab, create a new vertex group. We'll call this long grass. And I'll click assign. Make sure you click assign. Now we'll select deselect and select just to make sure that we have the right thing selected. We'll go into the particle system. We'll show our long grass here. We have to switch out of edit mode in order to see it. You can see we have all that there. And then down where it says vertex groups, we want to change the density to long grass. And I don't know why it did that. Well, length, it's one of these. I don't know why it's not working. This is long grass. Kink, long grass, roughness, long grass. Typically, when I do that, it sends them all over there, but it doesn't seem to want to do that now for some reason. That is very, very strange. I'm really not sure why it's doing that all of a sudden. So I'm just going to go ahead and set the density to long grass. Oops, not the tuple object, this to long grass. And then we'll set the clump to long grass as well. Just so we can kind of see, it does move most of them over here. What I'm going to do actually in order to counter this, I guess, I'll create another plane. I'm not sure if yours will do this, for some reason mine is. I'm going to kind of line it up with the ground plane here. Actually, we'll do Shift S, cursor to center, then Shift A, add a plane. We'll move it over, SX, just to scale it up across the X axis. So it's all the way across, then SY. And there we go. And then I'm going to kind of angle it across the Z axis. I'm going to add a collision that kills particles. So now, actually, you know what, that's only for animations. We'll just live with this. So now if we go ahead and look at the particle system here, if we enable all of them, you can see we have this nice little grass covering. It's not too great, but it does what it needs to do. And if we switch into rendered mode, we can see there's some grass. And I'm actually going to pump up the final numbers a little bit here. I'm going to switch particle system 1 to about 50,000. Here, I wonder if I switch into wireframe mode here, if it'll go a bit faster. Yeah, there you go. If we switch into wireframe mode, it'll go faster. So you can start to see it's kind of covered. Maybe do 100,000 for those, and then we'll pump this up to 30,000. And we'll pump these up to 8,000, not 80,000. All right, so now I'm gonna switch into rendered mode. We'll see how this handles. That actually works pretty fast. So you can see we've got a bunch of little grass particles. You can add more, you can add smaller ones, it's up to you. I might actually change the ground plane color a bit, but I'm not going to quite yet. I'm gonna switch back in, hide all these so we don't have to look at them because they are lagging up. And I'm actually going to add a bit of actual texture to the terrain. So I'm going to press Tab, and I'm going to press A to select everything. I'm going to select Subdivide, and we'll add in 10 cuts. I'll do that once more. We'll add in 3 cuts this time, just so we get this general thing. Then I'm going to add a modifier, add a displacement modifier. I'm going to move it up above the particle systems, that way the particle systems follow this. Add a new texture, use a cloud texture, and then I'm just going to come back into here and change the strength to 0.1 maybe. That's way too much. 0.05, 0.03. There we go. 0.03 seems good. I'm also going to go into sculpt mode here and just kind of hold shift here and just kind of take down this hill. Shift is to do the opposite. So like if you do that, it builds it up. You'll hold shift, it'll go down. But it is not going down for whatever reason here. Subtract. Okay, there we go. I guess that must be another program that I did that in. I don't know why it's not working. Anyway, just kind of make a little hill here and hill there. Just get a little bit of topography in there to make it look a bit more natural. And then we'll grab our smooth tool. Just smooth out just a tad bit so it looks a little bit more natural. And then voila, we have it done just like that. And then we'll go ahead and switch out of sculpt mode. And now if we switch into rendered mode, oops, we need our particle systems. Enable, enable, enable. It's going to take a second to load. And voila, we have our wonderful, beautiful voxel dinosaur. Rawr. Even though it's not voxely and everything else is. I'm probably going to actually... Let's add some dead trees into the background. I think that would look very nice. So I'm going to... actually, I wonder if we can use the sprout thing. For those of you that don't know what sprout is, it's like this really awesome thing that you can create trees with. Let's look up sprout. Is it sprout? Tree. Sapling. Sapling. Alright. So now, if we press Shift A, we can add, let's see, I can't remember where it was. So if we enable sapling, okay, if we enable the sapling in the add-ons menu, which you can see I just did in the user preferences, we come into the curve menu, add a tree. You can see we already have this awesome little tree here, which is actually perfect. Our little editing menu is down here. And I'm going to go ahead and, let's see here. We don't want leaves. I'm actually going to keep this preset tree. So I'm going to press Alt-C, convert to a mesh, and I'm going to add a modifier, add a solidify modifier. Solidify it maybe 0.5. Hang on, I skipped a step here. I'm sorry, I haven't used this in a while, so I'm gonna have to kind of go through it and see what I can do here. Ah, there we go. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see, Shift A, mesh curve, add tree, bevel. Okay, so all we have to do is just check the bevel box, and then we get this cool thing. We can come into the branch growth, make not the stem very long, but make the branches very long. So let's see, curvature. You could drag all these sliders, mess around with them. They all do really cool things. Make the branches a bit longer. Not 0.96, maybe 0.5, 0.6, 0.6, no, not 36, 0.6, there we go, 0.7, I don't know what that one does. Vertical attraction seems to be like the branches and how close they are to the tree itself. First one seems to be like the actual size. Set that to 0.9, I think it was, maybe. Curvature, we can change the curvature of the tree, make it like all bent and stuff. Actually, I'm gonna kind of keep it a little bent, just like that. I'm gonna go back into the geometry setting and make the resolution just a bit higher, like that. I'm gonna change the branch growth. I'm gonna try and make sure that we have little to no taper on the trees, because the more taper there is, actually we'll do like 0.9 taper. Wait, no, 0.1 taper. 0.2. We'll do 0.2 taper for everything, because the more taper it is, the more trouble the modifier is going to have with it. And that looks pretty good. I might try and buff up the branches just a little bit, see if I can find that one. That's length, length variation, taper, curve resolution. Oh my goodness, branch splitting. Here we can add more branch splits too if we want. I'm not going to. Actually, yeah, that's kind of handy. With this is what this last one was that I forgot existed. So I can add in like all these little branches and stuff. I'm not going to do this because it makes the tree a little more detailed than we need it. So I'm going to go back into branch splitting, set that back to 2. And I'm just going to stick with this tree right here. So I'm going to press Alt-C and then convert it to a mesh. And then I'm going to add a modifier, add the remesh modifier, blocks. And then we'll change the octary depth up to 9. 9's a little too, or 8's a little too short. I meant 9 before, but I didn't do 9. We'll do 10's too much. 9 looks good. So we'll do 9, and then we'll move it to layer 1, and then we will change its material to be bark, and then it's always the big trees that seem to die for whatever reason, so we'll make those kind of stick out in the back here. So we'll add 1, we'll duplicate it, rotate it across the Z to give it a bit more variation, and we'll make another one that's a bit bigger right here. Actually, we'll move it over here. So now if we look at it, we see these nice cool dead trees in the background, which kind of give it a whole new feel. Make a small one right here. And I'm going to make more, except these ones are going to be kind of like little shrubs across the front here. So I'm going to shrink them down a bit more. I'm going to press U, separate object, data, materials, and texture, just to make sure they're different. Change the scale down to maybe 0.3, 0.4 maybe. Just get a little bit of branching in there, make them a bit bigger. And I'm also going to make them their own material, since we did do everything change. We're going to make this like a bit lighter, like that maybe a bit more yellow into it, so it looks kind of like grass, and we'll call this shrub. And we'll just make a few of these just along here. 7.5 to go into top-down orthographic mode. We'll distribute them throughout the forest and stuff. They aren't all that important, but they add a nice little detail in. So, you know, why not have them? Just a few of them. And voila, we have our scene pretty much done, except we don't have our beautiful VREX textured at all. So let's go ahead and put blocks back on. So let's see, where did I make it visible again? So he's kind of pixely again. I'm actually going to change the size down to 0.8 maybe. And I'm actually going to move this guy to layer 2. And I'm just going to do a really simple, really boring rig on him. So I'm going to get rid of the modifier, so I can't see it, but it's still there. I'm going to add an armature, just do a quick little armature thing here. Scale it up, we'll change the armature so we can see through it. Oh, here, armature settings. Now we'll change it to X-ray so we can see. All right, now we'll switch into edit mode, and then we'll make a bit of a thing here. Oops, I switched into wireframe. This is just a really basic rig, nothing too fancy. And the mouse is probably going to get kind of distorted if we try and open it too much. If you'd like me to do a tutorial on rigging for all of you non-advanced users, leave a comment and I'll consider it. Uh-oh. I made him have a wiener. Didn't mean to do that. Alright, there's our really simple rig. We don't even need to do the rest. So I'm going to press or shift click, Control P, oops, wrong way, Control P, with automatic weights, and let's just see how well this rig turned out. Switch into pose mode, R. Yeah, you can see it really just, that mouth got butchered because it is the way it's made. It's just not very good, and it looks like it didn't grab some of the teeth either. But we can kind of position it. You get the general concept. We might be able to rotate the leg out just a little bit. Yeah, we can actually rotate the leg pretty well without having too many floating pieces. So let's go ahead and look at add our modifier again, apply our modifier to the mesh. And this is actually really cool looking. So if we add our modifier again, you notice that it's kind of like this. We click apply, oops. We have to first change this. We have to reset this back to how it was before, all right? Then I have to unparent it. So switch back to object mode, Alt-P to unparent it, clear parent. And then with this, we'll go ahead and apply the modifier, and then we'll add another modifier here. Actually, we'll change the skeleton up a bit here. We'll delete this one, delete this one, delete this one, and we'll just rotate this across the x-axis and scale it up a lot. And we'll just make a giant head bone. We'll lose functionality of the jaw, but it wasn't very useful anyway. Who needs a jaw? Alright, so now we need to select our mesh, select our model, Control P, object, oops, not object, Control P, with, no, I keep missing it, with automatic weights. Let's see, it takes a second there because we do have a lot of vertices. We'll select the thing inside here, and then we'll reposition it, and you can see, voila, we can now animate our voxels, which is really freaking cool. And I'm actually going to be doing this with my thing. So I'm going to go ahead and pose this just a little bit. So it almost looks like he's going to go down here. We'll rotate that, rotate this, rotate that, rotate this. Make sure it's not too bad. Rotate that down, rotate this up. Rotate these forward. Oh, it looks like he's leaning forward a bit more. Well, it is a kind of poorly made armature, so don't expect too much from it. In my case, at least. You can put more work into yours. So there's our wonderful kind of partially animated, well, not animated, posed voxel thing here. So I'm going to select both of these and then move them to layer 1 once again. And here we can see our guy is now standing here looking quite intimidating, if I do say so myself. So now our basic scene is done. I'm going to add a few different lighting things in here. So I'm going to turn off ambient occlusion, switch into rendered mode. And oops, I forgot we have to still texture our little dude in there. So I'm actually just gonna apply just one solid color to him because I don't have enough time to really texture him. I'm gonna make him kind of a greenish, brownish color almost. Let's see here, how can we do this? I'm gonna add some little details on in a second though. Maybe just make him brown. He could be purple. I mean, nobody knows what color dinosaurs actually were. I do want him to stand out though, so I might actually make him a little bit red. Like a dried up red like that. Or I can make him like a vibrant green, or maybe blue, or maybe make him purple. We'll make him orange like that. That looks kind of cool. And then we got to get an angle on him that makes it really obvious that he's indeed a dinosaur, not just some really screwed up thing. So I might actually repose him a little bit here. Oh, do I not have the? Oh yeah, I had both selected. He's shaking his head. Alright, so we'll do that, I guess. So he's facing down just a little bit. And then we'll just select the whole armature and move it down just to make sure he's on the ground and not just floating in the air. Rotate him across the X a little bit just to make sure his feet line up. And then we'll move him up just a tad. Voila, kinda, maybe, hopefully. Alright, good enough. So now we have our dinosaur, he's laying on the ground. Just burst through a bunch of trees, you know. Like a total V-Rex or whatever it's called. I think it's called a V-Rex. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lower ambient occlusion to just 0.1. And I'm going to actually set the world. I'm going to grab an environment texture. So let's look up Sky HDR. So for those of you that don't know what an HDR texture is, it's a really super cool HDRI, sorry, not HDR. It's these cool images that allow you to make your projects way cooler and way more amazing. And I can't remember what the website is. It's CG Source, and then it's got a bunch of HDRI skies. They're all free. You can get a thumbnail for free. If you want to buy the full version, it costs money, but I don't have that much money, so I'm just going to download this nice kind of puffy cloud. You can see here, there's some of the things. If you'd like to buy it, you can. There's a preview right here. We'll just open image in new tab and then save images, save it to my desktop, I guess. Save. Now we'll go into here. We'll come into the world tab, use nodes. Now we'll change this, keep it as background, and then change this to environment texture. Open from wherever you saved it, and there's mine, color mapped sky right there. Now we click rendered. And now everything has this really earthy kind of look to it. I'm going to change the strength of mine up to 2. Actually, no, we'll do 1.5. And you can see we get this really nice lighting that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise because it almost simulates real world lighting. And if I switch into rendered mode here, you see this nice like big sky, and sun looks like it's straight up right now, but I'm going to tweak that a little bit in the final version. I'm going to add a sun lamp. Oh, why isn't it? Oh, it's because I'm in pose mode. We'll add a sun lamp. We'll move it up just a little bit. Doesn't really matter. Sun lamps don't work based on proximity. I'm going to rotate it across the x-axis. I'm going to make it just a little bit yellow and orange, because that's how our sun actually casts light based on our atmosphere and stuff. I learned that in chemistry, of all places. And we can see it gets this really nice kind of look on it. I'm going to grab a different HDRI sky, actually. I'm going to look up clear sky HDRI. I'm going to change it and choose a size that's larger than 2 megapixels, see if we can find one. Is this an HDRI? It looks like it might be. Alright, so this one looks a lot better, so I'm going to use this one instead. You can see it does have a bit of like a farm down here, but that really doesn't matter. It looks almost like my where I live, and it's from a Russian website. I'll go ahead and link this in the description. I don't want to save it with Russian characters, so I'll just call it sky.jpg. All right, so let's see. If we go into the world here, open up sky. Let's hope, there we go, that looks a lot better. So now if you zoom out, you can really see that it's an actual sky, and then there's just a little bit of a world down there, and that really doesn't matter all that much, especially because you only see that on the bottom, and you don't even see it on the bottom because it's so far away. So let's see here. It does look a little bit blue, but we'll tweak that in the rendering settings. I'm gonna go ahead and show all the different, I'm just gonna get kind of a decent angle here, and I'm gonna make sure my samples are at 0 for preview, which that means it just goes infinitely. And we'll go ahead and show the main particle system. I don't want to show all 3, but there you go. You kind of get a general idea of what it's going to look like. I'm actually going to drop the, make the grass texture look a bit darker here, because it looks way too peppy, if you know what I mean. Just like, yay, green! Yeah, it kind of bothers me, and that was a really creepy laugh. So I'm going to go ahead and hide it again, and then we'll look down at the bottom here. I'm going to change the grass texture to be more like this, and we'll change this to be more like that. There we go. I might change it to be a bit more vibrant green too. Alright, so now we got our cool little dinosaur dude here. I'm going to add in a couple other things just to make it like really go just over the top. So I'm actually going to go ahead and get my camera here, get my camera angle set up. Oops, I just selected everything on accident. So I'm going to press N to open this menu, lock camera to cursor, close both menus, and then actually going to zoom in a bit so I get a full screen view of this. And then we'll have it like this almost. So you get kind of like a down low view. Switch into render mode here, see what that looks like. That looks okay. I'm going to add a little bit more variance with the sun, just so we get a nice clean look at our dinosaur here. So we'll go ahead and grab the sun. I'm going to make it rotate across the x-axis just a bit more so it looks more like that, and then we'll rotate it across the z-axis so we get some light coming in this direction as well. So it's kind of a median between the two, and if we look at it, we now have the entire side of our dinosaur lit up brightly here. And then I'm actually going to make it a little bit more yellow just to counteract that blue that we have. I'm going to set the strength to 2 maybe, maybe 1.5. That looks good. So now we're going to go ahead and let this render a little bit. There we go, we have our beautiful little dinosaur coming along. Pretty swell there. Let's see, so let's go ahead and add some fog into our scene here. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to solid mode, leave the camera view. And I'm actually going to come into the scene settings right here. Actually, is it the scene setting? No, it's the render, or what is this? Render layers right here. Go into passes, select mist. I'm going to select the camera here, and we're going to show the mist, so now we can kind of see where the mist starts and where the mist ends. So I'm going to set the start to, if we come into the world settings here, we see mist pass now. Set the start to 3 and the depth to about 100. That way it goes nice and far before it actually maybe a bit more than 100, we'll go 150. 150 seems a little far, 120, not 1,120, that's a lot. 120 seems decent, and then we'll go ahead and we have to composite this actually, so we'll switch into compositing mode, open up the node editor, and we'll check use nodes down here, and we have our, I'm actually going to render this image really quick here. 10 samples is all we really need just to kind of get the fog set up, because you cannot preview fog, it's a post-processing thing. So you can see our dinosaurs rendering down here. We're not going to do anything with it yet. Instead, we're going to add a color mix right here. And for the factor, we're going to drag in mist. And we're going to disconnect the image from the composite, and we're going to add it to the top of this layer down here. And you can see right down here, we can see our grass kind of growing. It does look a little bit monotonous, so I'm going to tweak that a bit in a second here. But we're going to do that, and then we're going to put the image out as that, and then we can change the fog color to kind of just like a nice shallow blue. You'll see what that does in a second here. You can see it gets this nice, really cool looking fog that looks really dramatic, and it looks very atmospheric. It does look a little too cold, and the grass is really bothering me down there, so we'll fix the grass, and then I'm going to make the fog a little bit further though, so we can really get a general idea of this, because it does start a little bit too early in my opinion. So we'll change the fog to maybe start around 6 and have it go to 150. Just like that. And then we'll change our grass particles in a second here. We'll go into here, and then we'll have the particle system. We'll show the tall grass first, because the tall grass is the most obvious when it comes to the angles and stuff. We'll boost the random size a lot more. Right there, you can tweak it down here too. We're also going to add in global. Oh, I don't know what global does. Actually, I'm curious kind of here. If we change that, if we enable rotation and then disable this rotation, what happens? Okay, so if we do that and disable this one, it stays the same. But if we have object X, we can kind of change the random here. Oops, maybe we'll change it to Z. Oop, X, Y. Wow, that is just cool. I don't know which one to use here. Hair? Jeez. These are all just insane. I wonder if I can change angular velocity. No. Random. Oh, there we go. Okay, so maybe if we do that instead. Change it to object Y, object X. That looks actually not that terrible. It is a little bit too funky for my liking. Z is bad. Yeah, Z is bad. So set that to 0. Y. I wonder if you can add 2 different things of velocity on here. Like if I change the random now, I'll rotate a little bit. 0.3, 0.25. That's so weird. Oh, here. No, it's angular velocity. Never mind. Oh, this is bothering me so much. You have no idea. I don't know why. Alright, I guess that looks decent. So now let's go ahead and render it and see what it looks like this time. We'll leave the samples at 10. That's the nice thing about voxels too. It doesn't require a lot of samples to render it. So you can see here, I've got relatively low samples and I've already got a relatively clean image. I'll maybe boost it to 50 for the final render, but that's really all. You can already see this grass is starting to look a lot better. Like so much better, because it does not look like the same thing over and over again, which is very good. There's our dinosaur there. We need to give him a name. We'll call him Mr. Rar. Rar. I'm actually going to make this window a bit bigger. Oh. Just so we can kind of get the full effect of what we're actually made here. Voxels are really fun to mess around with. They're really cool, and you can get a lot of really cool effects out of it. And there you go. Kind of got that really foggy, eerie effect. Makes it seem like he's in a marsh almost. I'm going to do the same thing I did with these little grass things with the other grass things too, because those are starting to bother me as well. Because when you're making something, your eye is very picky about repetition. And if it sees a repeated pattern, it'll be like, yo, that's not right. So you have to fix it in some way or another. Maybe 0.2. I did have this one. What did I have for this one? Oh, I changed that, so we'll change this to 0.2. See what that looks like. Maybe 0.15. Give it a little bit of variation, and then I guess we'll do the same with particle system 2. We'll do 0.15. All right. Now I do like the fog in this. I'm going to do a little bit more compositing here, though. I'm going to add a filter, and let's add some focus into this, so it's more focused on our actual dinosaur. So I'm going to set the focus to the head of the dinosaur. So I'm going to press Shift A, add a cube empty, and I'm going to scale it up right over the dinosaur's head, just like that, right in the center there, right at the edge, kind of. So you can see there it's kind of right in the center, close enough. And then I'm going to select the camera. I'm going to go into the camera settings up here, set the focus to empty because we didn't rename it. And then we'll just leave all that as it is for now. Instead of going into here first, actually we'll do this afterwards because that makes the most sense, because you see the fog and then it's blurred by the camera. So if that makes any sense to some of you guys, you don't have a blurred image and then fog on top of it. You have fog that looks blurred in real life, that is. So now if we come into filter and then defocus, we'll add that in right here. Then we'll use the Z from the image, drag into here, check use Z buffer, and then we can tweak the f-stop here. You can see if we set it to like 9, actually 9 doesn't change it too much. You can see some of the things in the foreground though get blurred, while our main subject right there, if we change it to 1, you'll see that it's really only this skull that's in, or the head of the dinosaur that's in focus. It looks almost like tilt shift photography. So we got some of the grass down there, some of that up there too. I'm gonna keep mine maybe around, let's see, let's go through them. 5 looks kind of good. I do like 5. Or it looks a little bit too blurry in the background too soon, too blurry too soon. I wonder what happens if we use high quality blades. I really don't know what this does. I've never done that before. Alright, we'll do, we can change the angle too if we'd like. I'm not going to change the angle because I really don't know what it does. We can add in gamma correction if we'd like to. Gamma correction is kind of cool, but you can see, like, especially in this tree right around here, you'll notice if I turn it off, it kind of blends a bit better than if it's on. So I'm going to leave mine off. And then we'll change, actually I'm going to change the f-stop to maybe 7. 7 looks good, because then you got these main foreground objects down here nice and blurred. But then as you go back, it's focused, and then back into the woods, it loses focus once again. So here we kind of have our dinosaur coming out of the fog, like a total awesome dinosaur thing. I'm going to actually tweak the mist a bit more because it's really bothering me. What does sensor do? Huh. Alright, I'm going to tweak the mist a bit more. Maybe make it start around 10 or 15. That's just my little pickiness there. I am going to add in a filter, and then we're going to add in a glare. We're going to add this in before the we'll add this in before the defocusing. And we're going to set it to fog glow. Then we're going to drop the threshold until the sky just barely begins to glow around the trees. Actually, you know what? We'll put this afterwards to kind of, we'll put the fog glow after the, here, I'll show you what I mean in a second here. It'll kind of smooth out the edges. So add in glare, change it to fog glow. Now right now it's not really affecting anything, but you can see right here it kind of gets a little pixelated here and it looks kind of funky. So we'll drop the threshold a little bit, maybe to 0.8, maybe 0.7, 0.6. We'll go 0.7, and we'll change the size to as big as it can go, which I think is 9, yeah. 9 is the biggest it can go. And I want the mix to be 0.1. No, 0.9. Oh, whoa, that looks spooky. 0.5, what does 0.5 do? Alright, 0.01. 0.03. 0.04. You can see all that really did was just kind of smooth out the edges there. Didn't really do too much, but it does add some nice little features. I'm also going to add kind of a, just almost like it's a, not like a camera flash, but a little bit of light specifically angled toward the dinosaur here. So I'm going to add in a area light. We'll do that, and then we're going to rotate it on the oops, not the X, rotate on the Y. So it's kind of focused in on the dinosaur, rotate on the Z just a little bit more. All right, and we'll kind of change we'll make it like it's from the sky, I guess. So I guess we gonna have to we're gonna have to rotate it on the Y a little bit more. There we go. So that way it just has a little bit, it's not gonna be too strong, maybe 50 strength, and then we're gonna change it to be a bit yellow almost. Here we'll switch into rendered mode over here in our little thing just to kind of get an idea of what it's gonna look like with and without the light. So without the light, it looks like this. With the light, I guess 50 didn't really change much. With the light, not 10. We want 100. It just kind of adds a little bit more of a highlight onto it. I'm going to turn off cast shadow so we don't get that. I'm also going to turn on multiple importance just so we get less speckles here and there. And I think that just about wraps it up. I am going to try and give my dinosaur a little bit of an eyeball here though. So I'm going to here switch into edit mode. Actually, I have no idea where his eyes are supposed to be, so I guess we'll just leave it like that. We have this really cool dinosaur nonetheless. I might add in some rubble. Yeah, we'll add in some rubble. So let's go to tf3dm.com to make it kind of look like Jurassic Park maybe. And then we'll look up rubble. We'll see if there's any rubble. What is a brick? A high poly brick. That's something I never thought I'd see. We can go into buildings, see if there's any ruins maybe. Ruins. Weathered ruin. That's kind of cool. Okay, we'll use some of these. We'll use some of these cars. We'll take a second to download. This tutorial's been, well, I've been recording for 1 hour and 5 minutes now. Something I do notice is it looks kind of monotonous again with the grass, but I don't know how to fix that, to be honest. There's really not much I can do. I'm just gonna mix in some of these little trees a bit more though. I'll rotate some because they kind of look a little bit funky, to be honest. They're like all facing the same direction, and it's like, what? Wait, this tree's over here, but it's over here too. How does that work, huh? Science is how that works. Magic, dark physics. Cool. Just add in a little bit more detail here and there while the model downloads. It looks like it did download though. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it out of the zip file. We'll use the 3DS, I guess. Drag this onto my desktop. And then we'll go back into Blender. I'm gonna switch back to default, not game logic view, default view. And then we'll go to File, Import, 3DS. And then, not that. We want to go to, where's the ruins? Ruins.3ds. Import that. It looks like imported really small, so we're going to move that to layer 2. Oops, where'd it go? Oh, I went to the wrong layer. Move that to layer 2. I'm going to scale it all up. Just a tad. I don't know what this is. I think this is maybe smoke or something. I have no idea. So we'll get rid of that. See here, we'll add the bus. We'll move that to layer 1. Oops. Why are they all overlapping? That's kind of dumb. So we'll move the bus to layer 1 like it's a tour bus or something. Took that. Then we'll add on our wonderful remesh modifier. Blocks. We'll see how good we can get this 9. See if it looks at all decent. Oh, that looks more than decent. I might drop this down to 8. 7? No. We'll keep it at 8 and we'll drop the scale down to 0.8. Like that maybe. Oops, I moved the camera. Control Z. Okay. I'll leave the camera now. And we'll just kind of move this. Oh, it looks like this side is a little bit more open, so I might use that instead. I'm going to select this object and put the origin in its geometry, or send the origin to its geometry. just so we have a bit more, you know, you get the idea. We're gonna kind of put it in the ground like that, so it's almost like it got destroyed and sent back there. I might actually hide it in the background a bit more, back here. Move it up a bit more. X, kind of orient with the hill. Put it there, and then I guess we'll add some. We'll make it just a rusty color, I guess, kind of like a reddish orange almost. See what that looks like. We're gonna drop the color of it a bit though, just to make sure it's darker and doesn't pop too much like that. That was just one big rust bucket. And then I suppose we could try and manipulate some of the things we've already created to make vines. Let's go over the bus. I might tweak that a bit more though, make it like almost like just blend in if possible, like that. There we go. That kind of blends in with the background a bit more, because I don't want to add too many textures. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take these existing little things here, and I'm going to duplicate one of them, press U, object, data, material, and text. We'll call this vine, I guess. Make it kind of more of a brownish green color instead. And then we're going to set its object, let's see, object transform, origin to geometry, put it here, rotate it along the Y, not wrong. And then we'll put that there and put another one right around here, RZ, RY. Just tweak it a little bit just to make sure it's kind of going over the bus, and then we'll add another one, RZ, RY, and make it so it's like crossing vines, I guess. It's gonna be a little bit hard to do with these. That almost looks like it was placed there, so I'm not gonna try and do that too much with it. Like that, and then we'll, that looks fine in my opinion. So we'll go ahead and give this a little test render once again here. It's got only 10 samples, so it shouldn't take too terribly long. Doesn't look like our grass rendered for some reason though. Did I disable that on accident? It's fine, ground. I don't know why the grass isn't rendering. That's a little bit fishy. It's supposed to render, but you know, maybe not. I'll try and tweak that to see why it's not doing that. It's kind of scary that it isn't. I'm hoping that I didn't break it or anything. But you can see there's our bus in the background. It kind of blends in. We'll get the fog in a second here, and voila. So we kind of get that bus blending into the background, slightly out of focus, but it's just enough that you can kind of see it still. And you got the green vines kind of going up and down it, which is a really cool touch. All right, so let's see. Let's add a couple other tweaks. I'm going to try and get these particle systems to come back. Can I still see them? Okay. So something happened to our particle system. I have no idea what happened. This is not good. Not good at all. I guess I can just try to kind of recreate them. Did I maybe apply the particle systems? No. I'll delete all these other pieces of trash. I'm really not sure why our particle system disappeared. Here, let's try and add another one. See if this one will work. Particle system 4, 1, 1. Do I have like the particles hidden for some reason? This is scaring me. All this work and it might have just all gone to waste. Oh my goodness, I am an idiot. I'm on frame 0, that's why, and they all spawn on frame 1. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this particle system. If I can, why can't I delete it? We'll just set the count to 0, I guess. And then we'll switch over to frame 1. And voila, there's all of our grass. I am an idiot. Alright, so let's go ahead and render it again. Hopefully the grass will render this time and I'm not left looking like another idiot. I'm sure some of the more advanced Blender users were just staring at me like, are you serious? You're a freaking idiot. In which I would respond, or to which I would respond, yes, I am. But only at certain times. One disadvantage of using armatures is it does get a little bit of this distortion in it, but you know, you do what you can do. I'm going to move that bus back a little bit more because it is still a little bit too in focus. It's almost done. Compositing. Hey, and it is done. And I actually think I kind of like the bus where it is now. So I think I'm actually going to leave this just how it is, and I think I'm going to call this our final product. So we have this really awesome T-Rex bursting through the woods. Not really bursting because there isn't much motion. I didn't really pose him that much, but you get the general concept. He's coming through here. He's staring out in this, what looks like a grass field. And then we got this bus over here. It's like deep, man. So deep. So that about wraps it up for this tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you learned something new from this, like a new method or a new technique or a new style, be sure to leave a like. And if you'd like to see more tutorials, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe. It helps me out and you get to learn more. Anything, I guess. So I guess that really wraps it up. So once again, thank you guys for watching and I'll see you guys later. And adios.